So if there were issues that were negative as you were growing up, can you use them as stepping stones? Because if you keep wallowing in that space that, oh, it was my parents didn't like me, they did, you will just continue like that for the rest of your life.
But still at Daystar University,
right.
I saw somewhere that you sold mandazis.
Oh yes, at Daystar University for pocket money and to buy other things, necessities that I required. You must never look like your problems. And they always say, fake it until you make it. Hey, that's the thing. You must really, look good. I mean, walk with a bounce. The people that God has entrusted you are not your challenges. They are actually there for you to mold them. They are there for you to bring out the very best from them. When one time, I think, my guy, now this one that I'm supposed to get married to, realized that these things were not working. And so I was waiting for him to be the one to break the relationship. So one day, because I didn't want to be a bad girl, to be seen as a very evil person who would go to the devil. Now with hindsight, that was nonsense and bullshit. I wouldn't get there. I wouldn't advise any girl to just go blindly into a relationship. You're better off in a relationship where your partners, you never quite get over grief. It always comes back in one way or another, but you just learn how to navigate through it, how to adjust, and how to just live and continue living.
We touch, we break, make it seem like we feel the same. We love what we hate.
Midday TV, spilling the tea, setting the trends.
Hi Midday Digital Media viewer, hope you're doing amazing. Welcome to the second episode of the Boss Lady edition. Remember, this is a show where we bring women who have gone through various challenges, but they didn't allow the challenges to weigh them down. They're currently making various moves in the specific industries they are in. Today we are having our second guest. She's a brilliant woman, a strong woman, somebody very quick to forgive. She's somebody who went through a lot, especially in her love life. At one point, she had to cancel a wedding just days to the D-Day. She had to deal with the consequences of domestic violence and even left her matrimonial home. And towards the end of her story, she dealt with hostile in-laws. But all this didn't put her down. Today, she is a great woman serving as the corporate affairs manager at the Kenya Reinsurance Company. And she's also a celebrated author, having written a book titled Beyond Trauma, I Now Thrive. So, are you somebody struggling with forgiving other people? Then this is your story. Are you dealing with any kind of trauma? You don't know what to do, you don't know who to talk to? This is the place to be. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me welcome my guest, Miss Gladys Some Mwangi. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Rosalind.
And you're so humble, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that you came and considered my story worth sharing.
Yeah, sure. It's a very great story showcasing how determined you are, how resilient you are, and you know.
Kagoro.
How are you? Okay.
Now you'd have to cut, Ama.
It's okay.
We'll continue? Okay. All right. You can greet my mom. Okay. So we continue.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a great story showcasing how determined you are, how resilient you are throughout the journey, and how you kept the faith with God, especially in your marriage life. But we will come back to that later. I just want to use your story to encourage somebody who went through what you went through, or the opposite of what you went through, depending on the phase of life we are talking about. So take me back to you growing up, how close you were to your dad. At some point you say, people thought you were a girlfriend to your dad. And your dad was this typical African man. We even vetted the kind of friends you had. So take us back to your background. How was it growing up?
Okay, thank you, Rosalind. I grew up in a village called Kinyoro.
Yes.
It's in Trans Nzoia County, and I grew up with very lovely parents.
Yes.
My dad was called Some Maswai, and my mom is called Eunice. You just saw her coming to greet you here.
Yes.
And she's seated right there. Mom and dad were such great parents and people who are intentional in bringing up wholesome and well-balanced children. And especially one thing I really credit my parents for is the desire to educate their children. Despite the fact that, of course, they were not educated as such, but they wanted their children to be very educated. So basically, I want to say I was just any other normal village girl in a very, very remote area. And we went, my father was a farmer and my mom too was a farmer. My mom grew wheat and my dad as well, wheat, and they also grew maize. And at some point I remember with nostalgia, the sunflower that was grown in our farm, something that I never knew. It was quite very interesting to see sunflower growing, and knowing that sunflower is what produces, we used to be told it produces the liquid oil.
Yes.
So it was quite mesmerizing to go to the farm and help my parents go to the farm, and milking the cows as well. I did quite a bit of milking of the cows, and I really enjoyed it. We used to wake up very early in the morning, go to the dairy to milk the cows, and take the milk to KCC, rather we used to take it to the road. They used to say, peleka maziwa kwa barabara huko chini. So we would take the milk kwa barabara, and then the lorry that takes it to KCC would come and pick the milk and take it to KCC. So basically, my parents were peasant farmers, and that is how they earned their living, and that's how they educated us as a family. I come from a polygamous, my father was polygamous, so I had a stepmother, but we all grew up loving each other. We didn't hate one another at all, and we didn't, I think my dad was very wise in how he was able to manage both families, because whenever schools closed, the other family, the children from the other mom, my stepmom, would come to our home, and my mom's children would go to my other mom's place. And none of us had that, thought that these people belong here and the other ones belong here. We were all brothers and sisters. We were all one. We all respected each other. We all loved each other. We all did things together. So that's basically who I am. And one thing that I also credit my parents for is for taking me, for every child, the background of their education really matters quite a bit. And so I'm very, very happy that my father and my mother saw it fit to take me to Kitale Academy Primary School, which was then known to be a school for only the elites and only for the people who were well-to-do. But yet my parents were able to sacrifice and take me to that school. And I really credit them for the English that they were able to teach me there.
It's so good.
And I think I appreciate. And apart from the English, then I was also able to speak very nice Swahili, manake Kiswahili cha huko kilikuwa Kiswahili mufti, na mwalimu wangu wa Kiswahili alikuwa ni mwalimu ambaye alitia bidii zaidi kuhakikisha kwamba nilikuwa mwanafunzi ambaye alikuwa wa kwanza katika lugha ya Kiswahili. So both languages were very excellent for me, and I really loved it, and I really thank my parents for giving me that opportunity. So I want to say that my background was quite very good from the parents' side.
Okay, you are a last born in your family.
Yes,
How many
I am.
siblings do you have?
In our culture, we don't count children.
Wow.
But anyway. Yes, but I have brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to mention that along the way, I've lost 3 brothers that were grown, and I also lost my dad, and I've also lost my step brother as well. But we thank God because we still remain a great family. Yes. So, yeah, basically that's it.
You always said that you thought you were an afterthought for your.
Oh,
Why is that
absolutely.
so?
Because I think the brother that I follow was born, I was born like 7 years later.
But that's
So in the African culture, children used to come one after another, one after another. You know, you get it? Yeah, the rest were born like one after the other.
Yes.
So for me, there was quite a very big gap. By the time I was born, I think my mom was a bit now, I mean, it was like, yeah,
But
yeah,
last
But
month
well.
wache hiyo fikira because I think you just came at the right time.
Really?
Yeah.
Tunafikirianga sisi ni we are very special.
We are mistakes.
No, I was not a mistake. In fact, I want to say that I was never a mistake.
Not that you are a mistake,
yes.
but I came by mistake.
Maybe, but I don't know.
Okay,
that my parents would be able to would be better placed to say that. Yes.
Okay, and as somebody who just received the love that a child needs from their parents, what would you tell somebody who went through a harsh upbringing? Maybe they consider their parents as toxic and it has affected their adulthood life. Maybe some of them don't even want to marry right now because of what they went through in the hands of their parents. They don't even want to see their parents. They don't want to support their parents. What would you tell such a person?
You know, actually, this issue about toxicity of parents and people branding their parents having been toxic or having been hurt. Oh, parents, you know, people take discipline as hate.
Yes.
People take, because I would say my father was extremely harsh. My father would beat all of us literally. And, you know, when my father came from the road, when he would reach it, like where the entrance to our compound is, he would just say, hey! And everybody would scatter out. Everybody. You know, my father, we would say, was harsh. But you see, how you respond to your parents, you just need to look at what is it, why were your parents the way they were? Also understand from the background, what did they, you know, people have been through issues. How was their upbringing as well?
Yes.
And so again, when you look at how they were brought up vis-a-vis how they are also bringing you up, that should never define who you are. You should not now become, and that is why somebody said, people keep saying, oh, I came from a very poor background.
And you're 32.
You're not the poor background yourself. You need to work hard yourself to actually advance and move on from this poor background. Yes, so what are you doing about it? And we thank God nowadays there are a lot of therapies, the people you can talk to. If you had a very, very poor upbringing or you had difficulties growing up, many people have had, if you go to every successful person today, I'm telling you, they will tell you their background was not easy. Yeah. They went through a very difficult childhood. But then again, they decided, they focused and they chose to make it work for them. You know, they say that if you're given lemons, make some lemonade and enjoy it. Yeah, so if there were issues that were negative as you were growing up, can you use them as stepping stones to better your life? Because if you keep wallowing in that space that, oh, it was my parents didn't like me, they did like my siblings better than I, they mistreated me, they did. You will just continue like that for the rest of your life. And then again, yes, it could be true, or it may not. It's perceptions. Yeah. Perceptions. We have a lot of misconceptions, some perceptions that are not true, and others are just based on our worldview, how we look at things, which is quite very different from how everybody else looks at things. You know, somebody said the other day, if I came in here, Rosalind, and said, good morning, chameleon, what will you say?
Who is chameleon?
Somebody else will just simply say, good morning, Rosalind. How are you? I mean, because I'm not a chameleon. Did you see a chameleon here? Just forget about it. I mean, it depends on how you internalize. Somebody else will be positive about it, will think it's a joke. Another one will think it is a very serious insult. things happen, but how you respond to those issues is what matters.
So for you, you don't believe toxic parents, toxic children exist?
No, they do not.
They do
It
not
is a
exist.
it is actually, they are there. Toxicity is there. But then how you respond to that toxicity, even in our workplaces, don't you have toxic bosses? Don't you have toxic colleagues? Don't you have toxic people you meet around the streets and everywhere? But what do you do about them? Do you let them get into you? Do you live above them? Yeah, remember what Michelle Obama said? When they go down, we go up, right? So when things are working against you, when people are being toxic, can you find ways of working around them? Work around them, because it's you're working on. You're a work in progress. So this should not be the people, they shouldn't define who you want to become, because you want to become something better in life. You want to be a better person in life. So will you let other people define how you're going to be? So yeah, toxicity exists, but how we respond to the toxicity is what matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's get back to your story. When you finished high school, and then your dad had already enrolled you to a teacher's training college, but you had this passion for journalism. First of all, what made you have this great passion for journalism at this young age?
Oh, well, as I grew up, I remember we only had a radio. We never had TVs and all that. So we would listen to radios. I used to hear Gladys Erude and a few, the Kina Leonard Mambo Mbotela. And I really used to enjoy the way they speak on radio and all that. And so I desired to be, and especially because she was called Gladys Erude, called Gladys, sorry. Yes. I also wanted to get into the media, and I thought because of the kind of upbringing and the languages that I was good at, I thought that would be my line of profession. And so I decided to pursue that. And so I appreciate that my dad did not want me to actually, the fact that he didn't want me to wallow around at home after finishing school and idle around, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I think my dad knew best what to do with me. And so he had gotten me this Meru Teachers College that I was supposed to go to.
Yes.
But fortunately, I started really applying for universities. I even applied for universities abroad. But of course, it was quite a challenge. I mean, it was quite a bit overboard. The school fees looked very, very unreachable for me. And so when I applied to Daystar University, at least I got enrolled into a diploma program. And I was able to, my father and my mother were able to call a few friends and family and raise a few funds to take me to Daystar, to begin me and start me at Daystar University. It was while I was at Daystar University, I did my diploma first, finished, went for an internship at a Christian station, and then after that I was able to start working at Sayare FM. And then I desired to continue with my studies, and that's how I went back to Daystar University to pursue an undergraduate in communications. And I was doing electronics media. I was very passionate about electronics media. And it was while I was just beginning at Daystar University that then I lost my dad. And it was quite a very tragic loss. But God saw me through. I was very close to my dad. God rest his soul in eternal peace, but he is a great influence to what I became right now. My mother was very, very good because she really supported me. She was always there. She always went out of her way to make sure that I go back to the university. She continued with farming and also selling milk, that I can be able to continue to finish my education at the university. So After Daystar University, I actually went for internship at KBC.
But still at Daystar University,
Right.
I saw somewhere that you sold mandazis.
Oh yes, at Daystar University, because now my dad had passed on, and I could not stay in the hostels, but I was a student. Fortunately, I was a student leader, so student leaders were allowed to eat at the dining. But of course, you wouldn't get everything. So I used to, because funds were very limited, for pocket money and to buy other things, necessities that I required, some foods that are probably needed, I actually went to I lived in the alternative hostels, which were called Hostel C at Daystar University. We had Hostel B, Hostel C, Visions and all that. So it was while I was there, they used to pay, they were Mbao structures, they were like, kind of a slum area of some sort. And while I was there, then I would wake up at about 4 a.m. in the morning and make some mandazis and then take them to the school canteen where they would be sold. And I would be able to it didn't really bother me. It didn't really make me feel any lesser. I really enjoyed it, by the way.
And even right now, you don't look like what you went through.
Oh, no, yes.
You
choose. You must never look like your problems.
There are people who glorify their problems to understand that they look like what they went through.
Exactly.
If somebody slept hungry yesterday night, they wouldn't want to tell you what I slept. You just look at them and you see, this one is hungry.
Yes,
yes.
You must never look like your problems. And they always say, these people who say, fake it until you make it. Hey, that's the thing. You must really, look good. I mean, walk with a bounce, look nice. And that's actually what I employed when I went for internship at KBC. I would dress nicely like as if I was a working class, go to the Mtumba and buy my skirt at 50 bob or 100 bob, nice shoes at 100 bob and nice shirts at maybe 50 bob that time, and you dress up and look really the part. You get it? So that when absolutely, and then when you go to work, everybody thinks you're also earning, yet you're not even getting nothing. You don't even go for lunch because you have no money for lunch. You're the one actually paying every month to be there at work. So I think that's partly what made my bosses then. I had Jemima Mungai, who was such an excellent woman. I really love that lady to death because she really mentored me into what I became. And of course, I got other people who are also very great mentors, like Richard Chacha. Richard Chacha really helped me, walked me through the newsroom, would take me out when he's going for the news coverage. And I became like one of the reporters. And then when we'd come back from the field, he would give me his scripts to voice for them. That's how I was noticed that I can actually read news. And so one time while I was an artist, I was now then absorbed as an artist. After internship, I was absorbed as an artist in the newsroom. An artist was one of the people that work in the newsroom as well. On a contract basis, you're not like fully employed by the employer. So I would, I remember at that particular time, one time I had been given some assignments, and when I came back, the chief news editor-in-chief, chief news editor was Jemima Mungai. Editor-in-chief was Mr. Hiram Musheke. Such an excellent, wonderful, great man who was very good in actually bringing out the very best in your abilities as a young person. For me, I would say Hiram and Jemima brought out the very best. I would say the world and the employment industry requires such people who actually identify talent, they identify the strengths and the weaknesses of somebody, and they capitalize on the strengths and bring out the very best of you so that you can be able to thrive. I want to say that Mr. Hiram Musheke, I feared them really seriously because they were very serious and no jokes. They were very, very strict bosses. But yet again, they would make me do what I needed to do. They would push me to make sure that I did what I needed to do to excel in the media world. So one time, Mr. Hiram Musheke told me, I'm giving you 3 days to go and practice on the teleprompter. From the 4th day, you will be reading news in Kiswahili on TV. I'm telling you, I was scared. But I did it because I was also fearing my boss and letting him down. I had to really practice. And that's how I started reading news in Kiswahili and on TV in KBC. And I am glad for that experience because it exposed me. And like I said one time again, as an artist, when an opportunity came, I think it was the electioneering period in 2002, and the European, it was the EU, the European Mission, the Election Observation Mission, EUYOM, I think, yeah, came to Kenya, and they needed media analysts and media monitors and analysts. And so they, of course, knew KBC as one of the best broadcasting houses in Kenya, and they knew that best resources always, even all these other media houses got their staff from KBC because yes. KBC was always the best. Don't be cheated by everybody here at yours. You now KBC is no longer the best. KBC ndio mama yao, you know.
You still watch KBC?
Oh, well, I do. Okay. Yes, why not? I do watch KBC. Who on your mama? That's where I began.
It's okay.
So, yes. So, they came to KBC and they were looking for media analysts. And my boss then, Jamie Mamungae, actually, I was in the newsroom and I saw her walking towards me and said, yes, there's one here. She's called Gladys, and I'm sending her to you just now. So I didn't know. I thought probably I've done something wrong. Then she tells me now, I want you to go to straight. Do you have nice clothes to go and put on? Go and put on nicely, but you look nice. Go straight to Grand Regency. It was then called Grand Regency Hotel. There are people who will be interviewing you there. I went immediately.
You don't know what you're going to be interviewed for.
Yes. So I went, got these white people who are doing the interviews. I passed the interview. They told me start working this afternoon. And the offices were actually at still Grand Regency Hotel. And they asked me to get them 3 more people, which I actually did, yeah, because of some of my friends that we worked. I remember Jackie Carey, whom I actually got to also come and join me. And we worked there. And immediately that was just a contract for a period of the electioneering period. And we did the reports, we did the analysis. That's when they gave the reports. We were able to monitor how the media house was reporting matters of elections, whether they're giving favoritism to certain candidates or not, whether they are balanced in their reporting, whether they were covering a lot of violence. We also were able to look at the violence that was taking place and who are the perpetrators of the violence, and was the media giving it prominence. And, basically looking at the balance of the media. How was their reporting? So that we know which media houses were actually balanced and which ones were actually skewed towards certain candidates, either they were paid or not. So those were the analysis that we came up with during the 2002 elections. And I was very happy to have also been exposed to that space because it really built me as a person in the career path that I eventually took. And so immediately after that, I was also called back to KBC and they told me, come back to your job.
Back here at your internship, you are thriving in your career courtesy of your bosses, your
Absolutely.
Editor-in-Chief.
Yes,
and
Chief News Editor.
Chief News Editor. These are people who are
and of course, a fellow reporter, a more senior reporter that was already a luminary in the field. That was Richard Chacha.
Okay.
Yes.
So what would you tell these bosses who try to stifle interns? You write a story, they take the byline, you are just sabotaging
It's very unfortunate that is what happens nowadays. I would say bosses should learn from, they actually brought, I would say that Jemima Mungai and Hira Musheke molded the kind of boss I am nowadays because I try to bring out the very best and look at the positive sides of everybody that I come across. And I would tell most bosses to please try and mentor, not to try and stifle, not to try and put them down. They are not your competitors. They are not, these upcoming journalists or the people that God has entrusted you to come, has entrusted to work under you, are not your challenges. They are actually there for you to mold them. They are there for you to bring out the very best from them, nurture them. You know, when they start doing very well, I have mentees who actually up to now feel very proud. I know Franklin Mukwanja, who is currently right now a CEO. Always he calls me and says, my boss. He calls me my boss until now. And he says, I always give him, he actually narrates some incidences where he could have been reprimanded. But he says that instead of reprimanding him, I always called him aside and tried to correct him in a very gentle way. And he says he was able to thrive because of how I was able to nurture him. And to date, he really appreciates it. Not only him, I have quite a number of people that I have been able to mentor and bring up in different fields and people who have worked with me who are always happy. And I would say also to other bosses, to other people, not necessarily a boss. It could even be people who've been brought to work with you. Can you probably identify their strengths and try to help them to nurture those strengths? Because people are going through a lot of mental issues, mental, emotional challenges because of their backgrounds. And so when they are entrusted to you, when they come to you and you make them feel more useless, feel even worse that they are not good enough, you are actually breaking those people completely. Their career paths may just be broken completely. And remember, you will be accountable to God one day if you break somebody. Instead, be happy that they will be able to excel, do well, and when they are actually thriving, you feel happy that you are able to be a contributor
And they will
to their
credit
happiness. I don't care about the credit, whether they credit me or they don't, but as long as they're doing well, that's the most important thing. Yes.
And again, your dad wanted you to do teaching. You resorted to journalism.
Absolutely.
And
That's my
you're
passion.
here thriving.
Yeah.
So what would you tell a parent forcing their kid to take a certain course? Because definitely if you take a course of your choice and you fail to get a job, they will be on your neck. Unaona, si tulikuambia.
Tulikuambia hukusikia. No, parents should be able to allow their children to be who they want to be. You know, I try to, I remember my daughter Neema, okay, this is my book, Beyond Trauma, I Now Thrive. It's called The Story and Lessons from a Diplomat and Communications Expert. I talk about issues of parenting. Issues of parenting, issues of also being, growing up and also being a wife, a worker, a career woman. And I would want to talk about a little bit about being a parent. This is Neema. Neema Mwangi is my daughter. At 17 years, Neema was able to write this book. You should be able to interview Neema one of these days, and she'll be able to give you more tidbits about, it's called Holistic Teenage Life, a roller coaster of exciting ups and downs. Now, Neema talks about one thing. Neema faced me one time and said, Mama, I do not want to be an image of you. I do not want to be a photocopy of you. I want to be myself. I know you may want me to pursue certain things, but that's not my desire. That's not me. That's you. Allow me to be who I want to be. And I had to actually allow Neema to be who she wants to be. The same with my son, John. I prefer for John to be who he wants to be. Because we are all different. And we all have different purposes that God has put input. Yes. And somebody said, yesterday we have something in our institution that our managing director introduced called the winner's mentality, which we have on Fridays. Yesterday, the guest speaker was able to actually bring in something that really touched me quite a bit. And it said, be who you are created to be. Pursue to be who you are created to be. Yeah. And so I'd like to be who I was created to be. I do not want to be Rosalind. Yes. I do not want to be my mother, Eunice. I do not want to be my father, Some. I do not want to be my brother. I want to be Gladys. I want to be Cherop. That I was born as Cherop to be what God wanted Cherop to do in life. So for the parents that force their children to be what they want them to be,
Yes.
it's quite tragic. I really pity you, because you are actually breaking these children. You're not doing them any favor. Allow them to be. If they want to be a musician, let them be. If they want to be a tailor, people want people who are very good also. The people also want people who are very good at creating very good clothes, and they can actually thrive there. I mean, plumbing, they can also be the great plumbers in Kenya. When I lived in South Africa, we had a company called Drain Surgeon. Drain Surgeon is actually the plumbers. They are very good. You can give it a very good, nice name and operate a company that does that. Nobody wants to think about plumbers being very, very, very well off or thriving. They can thrive. People can thrive in any field. So allow people to explore their potential without necessarily forcing what you think is their potential or is their career path. Allow them to actually, you can only direct them, find out from them. Be a coach as a parent. You know, a coach doesn't actually give you the solutions. The solutions are with you.
Within you, they give you the tips.
They don't give you the tips. They only bring out those tips from you. Because you are the one who has the ideas. It has to come out from you. So help your children to actually understand where they are going, who they are, what they like doing. And what they like doing is what they will eventually, focus on to become their career.
Yes.
If they like building things and all that, they could be architects. Or they could be that like drawing houses or something. They could be architects. They like building. Allow me to pick this call. Okay.
Okay, so what is Nema pursuing right now? Nema. Your daughter. Yeah.
Nema is currently a first year at Daystar University doing counseling psychology.
That's what she loves.
That's what she loves. But she says she's only doing counseling psychology first, and then she will go into law after that. She says she wants to understand people and understand why they do certain things before now she becomes their lawyer.
Their lawyer.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, take us through your career, how you transitioned from KBC.
Okay, so I left KBC and went to Hope FM. I became the news editor at Hope FM, where I started the newsroom. And thereafter, I went to, of course, like some of the things that we want to talk about also is the fact that, of course, I was working for a Christian institution then, and I became pregnant out of wedlock. And, of course, I had to get fired for being pregnant out of wedlock. And I went to, fortunately, God opened an opportunity that I actually did. There was not really much of a gap, because I was able to get a job at Nairobi Water Company.
You're taking us really fast.
Yeah.
This is a story you're skipping.
Which one is this?
And you know it.
Which one is this?
While working at Hope FM, that's
Yes.
when you met, your love story began.
Yes.
Take us through this, because that's where our story is mostly based.
Yes, while I was at Hope FM, actually, I met a young man. He was a good person, but I was not romantically attracted to him. But he actually thought I was romantically attracted to him. But he was very, very fast, and because I was naive and very, trying to be a Christian and trying to be a good girl, I quickly accepted to get married to him. And he went ahead to start planning for this marriage and all that. But deep within my heart, for sure, I don't think I was in this relationship.
And why did you allow all this to continue?
Because this guy was a Christian, and I did not want to disappoint a Christian. And
You wanted to be good.
I want to be a good girl. Yes, I thought that was being a good girl. Now with hindsight, that was nonsense and bullshit. I wouldn't get there. I wouldn't advise any girl to just go blindly into a relationship. You must have a chemistry, at least, There has to be something you like about that person. There has to be common interests. There has to be personality blending, and you have to be compatible. And I want to say, this guy was a very nice person. And I would still say even today that he was a very, very excellent person, but not for Gladys. Probably for someone else, because our personalities were completely different. Our worldviews were different. And there was no chemistry between us. So I think I would say that was the reason why this relationship wasn't working.
So did you get
so what happened,
Yeah.
along the way, I met this guy who was also, like, when I was in KBC, one time I was reporting, I met this guy during an interview that I had gone for, reporting. We, as reporters, you go for a news event. So I went to a news event this particular time. A certain minister had a news conference. I went, and then there was this gentleman who liked me, and he was really interested in getting to have my number and wanting to know me. So he quickly, after the news event, he was running after me to ask for my contacts and the like. So I exchanged my contacts, but nothing doing. For me, it didn't even cross my mind that there was anything. So anyway, later on, this guy started pursuing me, and eventually now when I was at Hope FM, he would want to meet me. Meanwhile, there's this guy that I'm already dating, that we are even planning to get married to.
Yeah.
Yes. But then again, my heart liked this other guy. And he would be the one even who would drop me at the bus stop when I'm going to for the masheres and meet the other guy and all that. He would even drop me and all that. And he, every time he would tell me, kutangulia sio kufika. That's what he always said. And eventually, when one time, I think my guy, now this one that I'm supposed to get married to, realized that these things were not working. And so I was waiting for him to be the one to break the relationship. So one day, because I didn't want to be a bad girl, to be seen as a very evil person who will go to the devil. Yeah, you don't want to look like the devil's child,
You have to be good.
Yes, you have to be a good girl. You don't break the hearts of Christians and all that. Children of God, how do you break their hearts? So fortunately, this particular time, he was very angry with me. So he asked that we meet in town. I thought now we were going to meet concerning, because it was like a week or two to the event. So we met at a certain, there used to be a restaurant that was opposite City Hall, somewhere there, or near it's Holy Family Basilica, the Catholic Church here. So near Keswick Bookshop there, around there used to be a very nice restaurant. We met there, and then he asked her, he was talking, he was the one talking, then he was frustrated and all that. He said, it looks like this thing is not even working. I said, oh, you think it's not working?
And you've been waiting for this.
Yes. I said, okay, it's not working for sure. Here is your ring. And I left.
You dropped the ring
That
on
was
the
it,
table.
yes. And I called home and said, this thing is cancelled. It's not happening again.
How did your parents react?
Of course, everybody was wondering whatever the hell happened. It was quite really bad. But I thank God, because they say it's better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. So it was after that now I decided to concentrate on a relationship with the guy I had.
Man.
Yes, the other
somebody
man.
is watching this and is saying, hey, fear women.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But that's the guy now my heart loved, not the other one. So this particular time, I thought now I was going to get into a relationship with this guy. Just a few months into this relationship, now we have been together. Now remember, I'm working in a Christian radio station. And one time, while we are there, I get pregnant. And then when I tell him, he asks me, what are you doing? What are you going to do about it? I'm like, the hell? What am I going to do about it? It's me and you. Then, of course, it looked like he was confused. He didn't know what he was getting himself into, or he had gotten himself into. Then only for me to realize, then he disappeared like 3 or 4 days. Then I was so frustrated. I was going through hell. I'm trying to reach him. He's not available. He's not picking my calls. Then only to realize later on that the guy had gone to help another lady who had just delivered his child. Can you imagine where we are at? Meanwhile, I'm working for a Christian radio station that, of course, you're not supposed to be pregnant out of wedlock. Yeah. Remember, I had just broken another marriage and all that. What kind of a girl is this? Eh? This must be the one that is going to the devil straight and works in a Christian radio station. So then I eventually, while at it, I eventually was able to move out where we were living. We were not living with him, of course, but we were neighbors. So I moved out to another place and started a new life. Of course, I lost my job.
Because of this pregnancy.
Of course, yeah. But, you know, because this is a very long story, we cannot, it's a long, long story. I know there are quite a lot of things I need to be handling. So I was able to get a job with Nairobi Water Company. We thank God because they were such a great employer. I would say Nairobi Water Company, God bless them, because they were such an excellent employer. They embraced me very well. The director of human resource that time, she was called Celestine Kiuluku. God bless you, Celestine Kiuluku. Wherever you are, may the Lord bless you so much because you have a heart of gold. You helped me through. You actually stood with me and helped me even during the time when I was very weak. And as a head of human resource, a director of human resource, you truly were a human resource expert because you handle the human part of your resources. And so I would say that was a great time, a great beginning. And anyway, to cut the long story short, somehow I got, Nema was born. After Nema was born, of course, the father was not there, but he came back 9 months after Nema was born. That's how he came back again into my life, and because I was very vulnerable with him, I loved him, I liked him, he got back into my life. And of course, now that's the time now. Of course, we got married, we had a wedding, a beautiful wedding. And then there was now the cheating that started again in the marriage and a lot of violence. Sometimes I was beaten. We would, you know, it was really quite an ugly scene. But I want to say that I did not stop praying. And one time I think I also appreciate my husband because he always wanted it to work. Despite the fact that things were happening, he also still loved his family very, very much. Because he worked at it. He accepted to work on himself as we worked on each other. As you know, there was this breaking time when I was expecting our second born son, John, when I had, I think we had another incident of domestic violence and I moved out of the house. And of course, we had to really have issues settled properly. And after that, my husband started working on himself. So when John was born, my husband had really changed. He'd become such an excellent, wonderful person. He loved his family. He was quite spontaneous in spoiling his children. His family would take us on holidays to Mombasa, to Naivasha. We always, to Nanyuki. No 2 weeks would find us on weekends in Nairobi. We would be out somewhere. Even we would, after church, he now liked going to church. He liked to be now that family man that I had always wanted. So that was Mwangi. And
how did you get back to this home? You left?
Sorry?
How did you get back to his home?
To
his home?
To
your
his
matrimonial home, yeah.
Oh, he's the one who came where I was. He followed us where we were.
Okay.
He followed us where we were. He moved to where we were. Yeah. So we started back again, you know, as a family. And our parents sat together And his mother also was such a wonderful woman who loved me quite a bit. And so his mother really embraced me. His mother loved me and told him, it's Gladys that I know in this family. Nobody else will ever come to this family. So my mother-in-law was a wonderful woman. May God rest her soul in perfect peace, Mama Esther Mumbi. That's why my daughter is called Neema Mumbi.
You were talking about your husband coming back and then he was a reformed person.
Yes.
Yeah, let's continue.
John, come and say hi first. Come here. This is my son, John.
Okay.
John, say hi. Hi. And say hi to Roslyn.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah. Okay. So you're asking when my...
Your husband
he came back and we, like I said, he was now an excellent man. I mean, he was a father figure. He was the husband I wanted.
Yes.
And 1 year down the line, tragically, he passed on one evening in a car accident on Thika Road. That was the beginning of our broken hearts again. After having just started enjoying my marriage. And of course, after my children just enjoying the presence of a father. Then it was quite very tragic. It was difficult. Of course, I never want to speak much about the hostility that I received from some of my in-laws. Not all of them, but some of them. It was quite very, very tough. But I chose, and I think I thank God for my mother because she supported me very much and held me together so that I had now to begin anew my life alone as a widow. And a few friends, actually. I know Masi Goki, whom I always talk about every time because she was then the principal of my children's school. And she came in so handy. She became my friend. She walked with us through the grieving period, the mourning journey, and helping my children to process the loss and myself to process the loss and making us close to the church. And I also appreciate my church. My pastors were such excellent people. Reverend Julius and Pastor Leo, Reverend Leo. We called him Pastor Leo. May the Lord rest his soul in perfect peace. Reverend Leo was such an excellent, excellent support to my children and I. He was even the chairman of the burial committee, just having been, despite being the pastor in our church. And they really supported us. They walked us through the journey. He would come in together with his family to come and visit my children, and the things that we went through, they helped us to navigate through. And so at one point I had to have a awakening and to just realize that I needed to pick up my pieces and be strong again for myself, first of all, and for my children. I needed not to continue mourning for the rest of my life because I won't bring back Mwangi. There's nothing much I can do about it. It's already gone. He is gone. And now I have children to take care of and I have a life to live as well. So, like I said, you take your lemons and make lemonade out of it.
So many months or years down the line was this?
Maybe about 2 or 3 years down the lane, I began now writing this book, Beyond Trauma, I Now Thrive. And this explains some tactics that I used to be able to get over grief. You never quite get over grief. It always comes back in one way or another, but you just learn how to navigate through it, how to adjust, and how to just live. And live and continue living. And especially for my children, of course, I needed to support them. And of course, by and by, we have seen the hand of God. We moved, I was able to move to South Africa for 4 years. I thank God for that opportunity of being a diplomat in South Africa.
So you wrote this book before moving to South Africa?
No. I started it while we were in South Africa.
And how long did it take you to write this?
It took me about 2 years or 3 years to write the book. It's
Congratulations. Writing a book is never easy.
It is not.
I know. I have a book I'm writing.
Yeah.
It's almost 3 years and what I've written cannot even fill a chapter.
Yes, you do it progressively. You know, they always say to be able to manage a whole project, you actually take bits and bits and then you make small successes and then accomplish tasks, small tasks, and then eventually you'll be able to accomplish bigger tasks within writing of your book. So anybody can be able to write a book. And also with the help of, I also had a publisher who was such an excellent publisher, Anchor. They're called Action Wealth Publishing. Action Wealth Publishing is an excellent publisher. And apart from that, I also had some great mentorship by Action Anchor Relations Network, managed by Jennifer Karina. Jennifer Karina is an excellent therapist and coach, and she really helped me to actually come back and realize that I had great potential, that I didn't need to wallow in sadness for the rest of my life. I had to pick up my pieces, look at my children, and move on, because the world is never going to move with me. It's not going to come. It's to stop at the fact that I lost a husband and that I am sad. Gladys is sad, so we're going to be sad.
We're going to put a pause.
Oh no, that doesn't happen. So I would say, ladies, look for Jennifer Karina. She's an amazing woman. Not only ladies, even men, by the way. She is an excellent coach. She actually helped me to, and you know, there's one word she says, thrive unapologetically. I want to thrive unapologetically because that's when now I started picking up bits and pieces of me, learning to go back to who I was that probably had been destroyed along the way. I don't want to say marriage destroyed me. It didn't destroy me. It's me who allowed things to destroy me. It is us who allow things to put us down. Never blame somebody for things that you went through. It all begins with yourself. You need to set up boundaries. You need to know how much you can take in and how much you can't take in. You need to know how close people can get to your space and know when it is, beyond the boundary. Keep people at an arm's length so that you have this other space to work on yourself and to better yourself and to make decisions that actually make you a better person. So I want to say that one thing that I always thought is that I was never enough without a husband. I was never enough without validation from a husband. We all desire, and really, it is nice to be loved. It is nice to enjoy the attention that you get from a husband. But then again, you are an individual. I am Gladys. Before I was Mrs. Mwangi, I was Gladys. And what if Mwangi didn't come along? Would I cease from being Gladys?
No.
Then work on Gladys, work on Rosalind. And then Mwangi will come along the way. If I really, whether they come or they don't come, it is immaterial. You are enough. Always remember you are enough. And one thing is that we are each other's critics. We always want to criticize ourselves. We want to pull ourselves down. Trust you me, you will get all the criticism. You will be put down by all the people or many people around you. But one thing you need to remember, let that person that is putting you down not be you, yourself.
So how did you move from this to South Africa and then came back to work at Kenya Insurance Corporation?
I was in Kenya previously. I was still only seconded to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then back to Kenya. So that's basically it. Yeah. So I'm back to my job. Yeah. And I enjoy doing my job, by the way. I really loved doing my job. Yeah.
Having gone through all this, what can you tell somebody, suffering in their marriage, you know, they're being beaten up. You get back to your parent, they tell you, vumilia hapo, kaa hapo.
No, it's a choice, ladies. And even men, because men also go through violence. It's a decision. What is it that you want in that marriage? Is it validation? Can't you validate yourself? Is it love? Can't you love yourself? What is it that, ask yourself, what is in it for you in that marriage? Are you sticking together in that marriage just because you're the one who is always, if you realize and if you notice, you're the one who is putting a lot of effort in a relationship, my friend, quit that relationship. It's not worth it at all. You're better off in a relationship where your partners, you each enjoying and thriving in that relationship. You're valuing each other's opinions, valuing each other's strengths, and leveraging on each other's strengths, and not to capitalize on each other's weaknesses. All marriages, all relationships, parents, relationships to their children, sibling relationships, the sibling rivalry, relationships always have challenges. But how you respond to those challenges is what matters a lot. You can either let them break you or build you.
Yeah.
If you're in an abusive marriage, you have no business being in that marriage. I would gladly tell you, walk away. However, if it's just personality issues that you're struggling with, issues that you can work together, it's better to see a therapist, better to see your pastors, better to see people who can counsel you and walk through with you that marriage, rather than suffer alone in that marriage, because all marriages have challenges. But then again, don't stick where you don't belong. You can't suffer for the rest of your life. I mean, this life is very short.
Sure.
Yeah. And you can still enjoy life. I mean, it's been 9 years now for me since my husband passed on. I didn't know I would get to 9 years. You know, I just didn't imagine I would live without a man. Yet I have been able to live. And by and by, I would say it's the kind of friends that you surround yourself with, the kind of company that you keep, the support groups that you have, the kind of activities that you involve yourself in. Always keep yourself busy. Remember, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. That is when you start thinking, oh, I'm alone, I should be with this, I should be with the other, I should probably start abusing drugs so that I can be able to forget this. Keep good company. And remember, somebody said, watch the company you keep. And not only watch the company you keep, watch the company they keep as well. Who are they? Then, now, leverage on each other's strengths and support each other. As ladies, as you can have men friends. I also have men friends. I have lady friends. And I know the boundaries and the limits that I have with them. And I enjoy. And so I will continue to thrive unapologetically. Yes.
You say it's 9 years since your husband died.
Yes.
That must be in 2015.
Yes.
So, okay, you talked about facing hostility in the hands of your in-laws.
Yes.
I would just want to know, do you still have your matrimonial home, you know, where it was?
I decided to move on. I completely moved on. I don't have, we were trying to build a home. I had actually used my money that I had gotten as, I had previously been a head of communication at IPOA. And so when I was leaving, I had just transitioned from IPOA to Kenya Re. And so I had just been paid my gratuity. And so I had used my gratuity to build a home at my husband's home because we wanted to have a home. But after the hostility I faced, we were just remaining with finishing the house when my husband passed on. It's still as it is up to now. I left and I decided to start my life anew. That's when I started, I came, I started building a new home. My mother embraced me. She also gave me a piece of land to be able to build a home where my children can call a village or a village home where we go during holidays. That's where we go to. I have no hard feelings. Some of those in-laws call me to assist them with school fees for their children. Sometimes I do. Sometimes when I'm able to, I assist where I can. And I have no hard feelings for them. I have moved on. I have my children with them. We have made our life on our own through God's grace. I would say it has been God that has held us together. I have probably that was their way of mourning, the hostility. There was their way of mourning. I do not judge them. But then again, I keep a boundary. I think I don't need to hold any grudges. Yes.
And maybe just to inquire, was this hostility physical? Was it emotional?
And maybe let me not delve so much into that. I do not want to talk much about it. Yeah, I really don't want to talk about it. It is something I have put behind me. I don't want to ever get back into it again. Yeah.
And maybe there's somebody watching this, they went through what you went through.
Yes.
Maybe their husbands passed on and they went through the same. They're finding it so hard to forgive. Maybe how can they go about it?
I would say forgiveness is a personal decision. You have to work at it. Because, holding and harboring bitterness kills you yourself. And always having issues against somebody else is like drinking poison and expecting other people to die. They will not die. They will continue with their lives and continue being happy while you're wallowing in bitterness. Release the bitterness, release the anger, and start building your life on your own. Remember, the Bible says God is the father of the fatherless and husband to widows. He is not a liar. Remember, the Bible says God is not a son of man that he should lie. He doesn't lie. He will actually, for me, that's my testimony. I have seen God. I completely did not know how I was going to move forward after that. But when I look at what God has done for me from that time, I can only say this God was God. This, everything was God. My job was God. My books and children, bringing them up, being able to pay their school fees and all that has all been purely God. I would say it has been God. Yes. So I would advise whoever is going through hostility from in-laws after losing your husband, don't harbor bitterness. Just try and pick up your pieces. It's very difficult. And I would appreciate if you can pick my book, Beyond Trauma, I Now Live. And I now thrive. It will tell you and give you a bit of some tips and tidbits on how to actually navigate through the loss of your husband. Even men that have lost their wives, they also experience the same hostility, by the way. I have a cousin who also experienced that kind of hostility, and he's a man. And we talk, and we just try and see if we can, try and release the bitterness, try and work out your life like that person didn't exist again, and rebuild yourself. I know there are children involved. The children will also need to understand that their dad loved them or their mother loved them, but we are now just ourselves, and we have to be there for each other. So that's exactly what I would say the widows and widowers need to do. Realize that they have to be there for themselves and for their children. Yeah.
And now this is a bit personal. This somewhere you mentioned that your daughter Neema one day asked you, Mom, so utafute kamtu.
Yes, I know. That's something that is natural. I enjoy. I would love to get married again, but I think having had the experiences I went through, it would take a serious man to be able to actually woo me into marriage, because I always can actually sense nonsense from far away. I can't, and I think I always analyze men quite a bit. I have friends that are men, but when I realize something, I am very quick at picking up red flags, and I never want to actually tell myself, well, I'm not that kind of woman who says, oh, I improve. I do not have the time to improve you, man. Improve yourself, and then we'll find each other. As for now, I am happy as I am. But if God brings the right man my way, I'll be happy to, of course, get into a relationship again and probably get married again. I wouldn't mind. But it has to be God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, speak to us about your current role, because that's what makes you a boss lady. Despite everything you went through, despite everything that you saw, you still rose up and you are now a manager. Speak to us about your role.
Yeah. Before, of course, like I had mentioned, of course, I have held quite a bit of some managerial positions previously, all the way from, of course, like I said, from Hope FM, I was in charge of news, the news editor and head of news. And at Nairobi Water, I was in management, of course, because I was the corporate. This moment. So I said, of course, I started at Hope FM as head of news, and of course at Nairobi Water, I was in corporate affairs coordinator, was a management position. Then I became the manager corporate affairs at New KCC. Then I moved to Hope FM as not Hope FM, to iPower as the head of communications and outreach, and where I moved then thereafter to Kenya Re as the corporate affairs manager. That's the time when my husband passed on. Then 2 years later, I went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I worked at, first I worked at the Kenya Mission to the United Nations in Nairobi at the UN in Gigiri. Rather, it's near the UN in Gigiri. Yeah. It's the Kenya Mission to the United Nations. It's an embassy of Kenya in Nairobi. So, and after that, I was able to go to Pretoria. Also, I was now posted to Pretoria as a diplomat, where I was a minister counselor for a period of 4 years. And then I came back in the year 2022, October, and came back, of course, to my ministry and back to my job at Kenya Re as the head of corporate affairs. I'm the group head of corporate affairs at Kenya Re. We have Kenya Re Uganda. We have subsidiaries of Kenya Re. We have Kenya Re Cote d'Ivoire, which takes care of the West African region. And we have Kenya Re Zambia, which takes care of the Southern Africa region. And we have Kenya Re Uganda. And of course, it is headquartered in Nairobi. And Kenya Re has footprints, or rather covers a total of 480, about 84 insurance companies across the globe, across the world. And we have footprints in at least 83 countries worldwide. So basically, I had the corporate affairs unit of Kenya Re. Yeah, and I enjoy working at Kenya Re. It's a good institution. We thank God for it. Yeah.
And as we wind up, before we tell people where they can get your books, maybe just send a message to a young woman or a young girl trying to make it, and things are so tough for them.
Young girl, there's a lot of potential that you have. There's a lot you can explore within you. Just need a few triggers. Just like I said, surround yourself with people who empower you, not people who put you down. And always try and get and bring out the very best of yourself, because the world is never going to stop to make you a better person. It is you. It is always inborn. You are born with it. It is you now to explore your potential. Get good mentors. Get good people who can actually guide you, and give it your very best as a person yourself, so that you can be able to bring out the very best that you want to be in life. And remember, you are enough. You don't have to be who somebody else wants you to be, or you don't want to always look at others and always keep thinking, if I was like so and so, then I would have been better. No, you are enough just as you are. Only work with what God has given you to make you better. So each day, be better than who you are yesterday. Just work on making yourself better, not in a competition with another person, but rather in competition with yourself. Thank you.
Okay, where can we get your book, Beyond Trauma, I Now Thrive.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Beyond Trauma, I Now Thrive. You can get it from me. You can actually inbox me. You can call me. I'll give you my numbers. Of course, you have my number. 0722 699 548 is my number. You can actually reach out to me, and you can get me on Facebook as Gladys Some Mwangi, and you can be able to get my book. We can agree, it goes for 1,500 shillings. For those who are in the international world, you can be able to get it on Amazon. It is also on Amazon. Both books, actually. The one for Neema. Neema is my 17-year-old daughter she's now 18. She wrote it at the age of 17. And this book, by the way, apparently addresses, I saw a pastor read almost like a whole chapter the other day that addressed the Gen Z issues. Actually,
she wrote about Gen Zs?
Yes, before it was.
Wow.
Yes. So I was telling her now she needs to speak up about it better, and talking about how their generation needs to bring change. And so you can be able to get my book. It goes for 1,500 shillings. But of course, Amazon has its own cost. And we can deliver to you wherever you are at a small fee. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for having us.
Thank
we don't
you,
take
Rosie.
it for granted.
Thank you.
Anyway, what a conversation we've just had on our second episode of Boss Lady Edition. See you next time. I don't want to add anything because, tell us what you think about this conversation. See you next time, same day. Bye.
We touch, we break, make it seem like we feel the same. We love what we hate.
Midea TV, spilling the tea, setting the trends.